Good evening. Why should it be any different that we wouldn't be waiting this year for our annual meeting? I think we have everybody from the bar, and I think they're still taking drink orders in here, so please relax and enjoy. Jim, we're taping, right? Thanks to everybody for being here this evening, and belated thanks to those who will be watching tonight's proceedings in the coming days. We are taping the meeting because so many people have already headed to their various winter or summer places. So we'll post the video of the meeting in the coming days and people can watch at their convenience. So belated welcome to them. It is my pleasure to call to order the annual meeting of the Ocean Club of Florida. All legal requirements have been met to convene this session, and John Burke, our club secretary, did indeed issue a notice of this annual meeting on March 29th per the requirements of our bylaws. Serving as the official tellers for the meeting are two esteemed members, Roger Brenner, and a last-minute stand-in, Craig Whiting. Alan Pritchard was supposed to be here. He's somewhere in a mud puddle, I think. But Craig has agreed to stand in, so thank both of you gentlemen. And with that, I in fact will ask Mr. Brenner to report on the number of regular members present this evening, either in person or by proxy.
Yes, thank you. The number of members present in person or by proxy is 239.
Terrific. My math tells me, thank you, Roger, that we hereby proclaim that we have a proper quorum, and it does exist to conduct the business of this meeting. Now, normally, I'm not one to wish away time. I got to tell you that. But I must admit that in many ways, I'm glad this fiscal year is soon going to be in our rearview mirror. It has been a rather bizarre year. The year ends tomorrow on Saturday, and I am glad about that. Whatever deities there are that rule over the world of private clubs, they somehow conspired and threw about every arsenal they had in their weaponry at us over this past year, but we beat them out. We survived. With COVID, we managed through a pandemic that wreaked havoc on our ability to just sheerly get together as members and mingle as friends and co-members. We encountered pestilence of all things last summer with a termite infestation. Some of you may not be aware of this, but we had to tent the entire clubhouse and close it for over a week to get rid of termites. It was just a bizarre year. No one will forget that during the very first year of the fiscal year, the first week of May last year, we felt the ominous presence of the underworld as our heavy equipment that was beginning to dig where we thought the new pool would be kept running into this massive glob of concrete, which turned out to be the magnificent mile wall that extends for well over a mile on the island that we all know a lot more about. Most of us wouldn't have known about this next one, but because candidly we needed to keep it quiet because there was an ongoing investigation underway. But in December, we were hit by thieves of all things, cyber thieves, thieves of the cyber world. A $190,000 payment that we made to one of the subcontractors working on our project was rerouted to a bogus bank account. And it wasn't until last month that the bank who was involved was able to claw back 60% of those funds, and our insurance company was able to reimburse us for the balance. So we came out whole, but it was another one of those fun little ordeals that we got to work through during the year. Now, while trying to, in earnest, complete the major project that dominated this year, we, like others, were met with about every kind of labor shortage and supply chain delay that this crazy year could dream up. And of course, these same labor and supply issues once again materialized at budget time in the form of higher inflation rates than we've seen in over 30 years. So we, like every other private club that I'm sure many of you are involved with, have had to raise our dues significantly for the coming year. Not a great piece of news, but a reality. And I was beginning to think that even though we're within 24 hours of finishing the fiscal year at about 4 o'clock, we were still going to work in a tropical storm. But I think we overcame that. So yes, on many fronts it has been quite a year. But despite the adversities, we celebrated our 60th anniversary in fine style. We have just begun to enjoy the benefits of our improved outside facilities. Plus, when Larry Ritter, our treasurer, takes you through our financial standing, and we later discuss our new member pipeline, I think you'll all agree that this club is as healthy as it has ever been. And that reality can only be attributed to three things. First, we have an incredible membership. The overall membership that so much loves this club is able to attract friends and family members to come here, experience the club, and fall in love with it just like we all did. That is such an important part of our history. Second, we have a staff that never fails to go above and beyond to make sure that members feel good about every experience they have here from the time they step on the property. And third, we have an oceanfront setting that is second to none. You look out that back window, and who could disagree? And I defy anyone now to walk through that new breezeway and get to the end and look at that outstanding view and not be awed by what they see. Critical to the success of our club has been the many members who have volunteered their time to serve on the Board of Governors or on the many adjunct committees that we have. It would be truly impossible to list all the members that have contributed through the years, but we certainly can and should recognize the members who have given very unselfishly of their time to serve as presidents. And I will add that these past presidents never really go off duty. Each and every one of them has been there to counsel and assist those that followed them, and I can tell you how much that is appreciated. With us this evening are past presidents Ned Evans, Marion Galt, and Don Young. We thank you for your service to the club and thank you for being here this evening. I also add my heartfelt appreciation to that of the rest of the membership for our current governors. It's been quite a year. It was a year that was loaded with controversies and challenges, but I will say that they didn't back away from any of them. There was never a rubber stamp approval on anything, that I can assure you. They kept me on my toes, which I greatly respect and appreciate. It has been a tremendous Board of Governors. So again, I add my heartfelt appreciation that we all feel. I will read the names of the current governors, many of whom have left for the season, some of who are here tonight. When I do read your name, I would ask that you please do stand. But our current governors: Eleanor Bierbauer, John Burke, Wally Burke, Susan Hooper, Susie Lyman, Judy McCarty, there we go, Ashley Perriott, Ashley's here, Tony Ritter, Larry Ritter, Chris Spencer, Chris Sullivan. Did he sneak out tonight? He was supposed to be here.
His little car couldn't get through.
Oh, his car couldn't get through the water? Because he was supposed to be here. Okay, Alan Weaver and Greg Zink. Now, one name I did not mention is Bruce Warwick, another one of our governors who recently requested and was granted, please sit down, thank you, was recently granted a leave of absence. Many of you know that Bruce is a very successful and talented real estate developer, and he has been asked by the Angel Group that's working in earnest to try and help figure out what the right solution is for the adjacent property north of the club. And so while Bruce is counseling the Angel Group, we felt it would be only appropriate to eliminate any possible perception of conflict of interest, so he has requested a leave of absence during that time, and we'll welcome Bruce back when the time is appropriate, because he is a great board member. So thank you all, current governors. We had a busy but terrific year, and we look forward to hopefully a somewhat easier one, but equally effective one next year. So thank you. Now, one somber but important part of our annual meeting is the recognition of the members that we lost during the past year. So if you are able, I would ask that you stand and now bow your head in silence while I read those names. Gene Olderman, Guy Vicinelli, Bailey Wolforth, Bill Rands, Brian Pfeifler, Mary Gerard, Grace Osborne, Phyllis Lennon, Phil Carson, Lenny Westfall, Kathy Watkins, Janice Cooper, Ron Cook, Gil Hudson, Hag Kazazian, Randy Broda, Mike Pruce, Sue Dickus, and Elizabeth Rands. We pray that all these fine people have found greater peace. Thank you, and you may all please be seated. Now, according to the directory, we do have a nominating committee consisting this year of Jack Alfs, Betsy Orlip, Larry Ritter, Don Young, and Chairperson Wally Burke. But I got to tell you, they got off easy this year. They didn't even need to meet because we had no vacancies on the Board of Governors, which is a strange occurrence, just a fluke of the calendar. I do want to forewarn whatever committee assembles next year, they're going to have a busy year because we have 5 vacancies to deal with next year. This year we do have 2 governors standing for re-election for their second 3-year terms. And to that end, I will now ask Craig Whiting to report on the results of that election.
Mr. President, Walter Burke and Tony Ritter have been re-elected for their second 3-year term by an overwhelming majority.
Thank you, Craig. And that's great news. Both Tony and Wally have served as presidents of their country clubs in the past. They bring incredible knowledge and insight to all of our board meetings and all the meetings in between, so we're thrilled to have them stay on the board. With that, I'll now turn the podium over to Larry Ritter, who will provide a summary of our financial results and position. Larry.
Thank you, Mitch. I'm going to report on the major projects for the year, give you an idea on what they cost and how they were paid for. But let me begin by giving you the very best news. All the projects that are underway, that are due to be completed this summer, many of them in the stage of punch lists that have to be settled, all of those projects will be paid for by funds that are currently available to the club. So there'll be no assessment for any of these projects. They have been covered by capital dues, by capital reserves, and by a bank line of credit. So let's talk about these projects one by one. First, on the west side of A1A, behind the tennis facility, was the rebuilding of the seawall. Now, the rebuilding of a seawall is about as exciting as buying a new set of tires for your car. When it's over and done, you've spent the money, but your life doesn't look like it's much better. But that project's been completed, and if you have the opportunity to go over there and look at it, you'll see that there were many improvements made behind the club. Seating, new decking, new landscaping, new pavers. And when it is complete, maybe the best news for the people that live across the waterway is that they'll have something nice to look at as opposed to what it looked like before. So, Bebe, I know you'll be thrilled to hear that. That project cost $475,000. Now let's move to the east side of A1A. As you all know, the biggest project was the pool project. That project, which was announced a year ago, and the membership was given the estimated budget for that project of $5.4 million. That included the construction of the new pool, the decking surrounding the pool, the freestanding bar, concrete restoration, cabana remodels, and outdoor furniture. Now, when we got into the project, there were a number of surprises. You know about the seawall, but beyond that, we found out that the estimate for the concrete restoration, which was made by engineers, once the construction people got into removing the shell of the building, they found out that the deterioration of the building was far more than anticipated. Rebar that had rusted, beams that had been rusted and caved, the north cabanas were tilting towards the south. It was a major project. And so we added to the repair of the concrete $350,000 for a total of $700,000. We also decided that while we were doing the project, and because we had a line of credit at 3.7%, which was pretty cheap money, and we had a construction crew on site, that it made sense to redo the locker rooms at this time as opposed to doing them this coming summer or the summer thereafter. In retrospect, had we waited and done them this summer, it probably would have cost 30% more. But those were completed at a cost of $800,000. We also replaced the behind you windows with hurricane windows. That added $55,000 to the project. The city of Ocean Ridge now requires a perimeter fence all around the pool. That was added at a cost of $65,000. And when we got into remodeling the cabanas, we found out that all the cabana doors had deteriorated to the point where they needed to be replaced. That added $223,000 to the project. So, if you add the $800,000, the $55,000, $65,000 for the fence, $223,000 for the doors, and an additional $350,000 for concrete restoration, we added $1.5 million to the project. So our 5.4 estimate plus the 1.5 came in exactly where we thought it would be at 6.9 million. And all of that will be paid by funds that are available. We had a line of credit for 3.7 million at 2.37%. We only have drawn down 2.8 million of those funds, so we've got a buffer there for future projects. The debt service for what we've drawn down will be paid monthly out of capital dues. Capital dues come in at a total of about $45,000 a month, and we'll spend about $28,000 a month to service the debt, so we'll pay it off sooner than we had anticipated. But let me just kind of briefly give you an overview of what the budget looks like for the club. There are really two budgets. One is the capital budget, which I've talked about with these projects. And again, that's made up of capital reserves, capital dues, in some cases a bank line of credit, and initiation fees. We are in good shape, capital dues currently, and for what we anticipate for the next year. The other budget is the operating budget, and that's the summation of all the income for the club, dues, cabana rentals, food and beverage income. When you add up all that income and you subtract from it the expenses, that tells you how the club does from an operating standpoint. We will end this current fiscal year with a deficit. And looking forward to next year, we've got a lot of challenges. Everybody knows about inflation. But if you look at what's happening with inflation as it affects a club, 60% of the expenses of this club and most clubs is labor. And labor has gone up dramatically. People can go get another job somewhere else. Our daughter works with a national drug firm that has pharmacies around the country. And they've told her that they can't keep pharmacists, assistants, working in their pharmacies because they can leave and get a better paying job at Taco Bell. Well, that's what Joe's facing every day with labor here. It's very difficult to get people, very difficult to keep them, and that will continue to be a challenge. And if you look at the effects of inflation on the cost of operating a club, no surprise at what's happening to food costs. I saw on the news the other day, some food items like chicken and beef are going up in some cases by 30%. And you see that when you go to the grocery store. So the challenges for next year are real, but the good news is we've still got money in our bank line of credit, which we can use in some cases to offset operating deficiencies. We also have a long list of applications for new members, and some of those funds, if needed, could be used. But we'll have to monitor the operating budget on a monthly basis and react accordingly. And at this point, nobody knows what that's going to look like. But we've had a very good year. We spent $6.9 million, and it's all paid for. So we're in pretty good shape. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry, for that great report. And I'm very pleased to acknowledge that Larry has agreed to stay on and serve as treasurer and chair of the Finance Committee for one more year. He does a terrific job on every front, so we're thrilled about that. I'll do my best. I'll do my best. My voice is a little strained. Next in line was supposed to be John Burke, the chair of our membership committee, a position that he's held. Can you hear me, Jan? No? Yeah. There's a mic. Yeah. But, well, the mic's going into the video. I'm not sure it's picked up in the room. Zev, do you want to give me the mic for the room? We can do that. Hello. Does that work? All righty. Anyways, next up was supposed to be John Burke, chair of the membership committee, a position he has held for 3 years. And there's no doubt that is one of the busiest roles in the club, not to mention one of the most vitally important. Well, John couldn't be here this evening, so when you do see John Burke, I hope you'll give him a pat on the back and a hearty thank you for all the hard work he's done over these 3 years. It's been pretty remarkable. I will top line some of the numbers, salient numbers that he would have reported. In the past 3 years, starting with fiscal 2020, we have admitted 88 new members. During that same 3-year period, we lost 61 members due to resignation or death. Interestingly, of those 88 new members, 27% are legacies. That's really terrific. It just continues the tradition that this club has always taken great pride in. For the current year that ends tomorrow, we will have taken in 37 new members. We will have lost 19 members due to resignation or death. And 29% of the new members brought in this year are legacy members. Again, just a terrific, terrific number. We are and have been operating right at that membership cap that the board established a few years ago of 445 members. And we have right now 32 candidates in the queue, in the process pipeline, from which we will add members as positions vacate. And I will say that that 32 number seems to increase every week. Our members are doing just a phenomenal job of introducing quality new candidates. Hats off to the members. It's just been wonderful to watch. It's also kind of interesting to note that we continue to enjoy a lot of geographic dispersion as our new members come from these states over the past year, among others: Maryland, New York, Michigan, Connecticut, Virginia, Illinois, Colorado, North Carolina, Rhode Island, Wisconsin, New Jersey, plus Canada, and of course, Florida. To say the least, we're in a healthy position from a membership standpoint, and we're confident that these trends will continue and that the quality of our new candidates will be outstanding as we turn the chairperson reins over to Susie Lyman, a long-term member. And for my money, she, as much as anyone, understands and relishes the culture of this great club. We have one more piece of official business to take care of in this meeting before ending with a few final comments from myself and Joe Pavone. Our bylaws require that the membership approve or ratify all actions of the board taken during the previous, or the fiscal year just ending. So to that end, I'd ask Craig to again stand up and read a motion.
Mr. President, resolved that all the acts of the governors and the officers of the Ocean Club of Florida, as well as their representatives since the last annual meeting on April 8, 2021, in their conduct of club affairs, and more particularly all contracts, agreements, commitments, and expenditures, as well as other acts within their authority as prescribed in the club's bylaws, be approved, certified, and confirmed.
Thank you, Craig. That's quite a mouthful. Do we have a second on that proposal?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We will consider that passed. Thank you. With that, just a few reflections on the year that has just passed. Clearly, much of the year has been consumed by the major project and the other ones that Barry referenced that coincided with it. I again want to thank the membership for the considerable patience and understanding that has been displayed over the past year. It has not been easy to weather the constant surprises, but the support of the membership has meant a great deal to those of us that have been working this project pretty closely. Though there are still hundreds of punch list items to be completed before we all start reappearing and gathering again next year, I think we can all see the dramatic impact that this project is having and will have on our facilities for years to come. The goal was to not lose that beachy, old Florida feel that we've all come to love at the Ocean Club, while upgrading the various amenities to better our enjoyment while we're here. I think most of us would agree that that goal has been met. I do want to publicly acknowledge and thank our important partners, architectural firm Peacock and Lewis, design firm Kimball Interiors, our general contractor Rick Mao Construction, and the project supervisor we hired to overcome the project, Nevin Bauman. These diverse companies and individuals came together to form a cohesive team that truly had our best interests in mind throughout the process, throughout the project, at times throughout the ordeal. I can't begin to tell you the number of times that we ran into obstacles, and this team put their heads together to come up with alternative solutions or workarounds. And of course, the efforts of this talented group were overseen by our talented general manager, Joe Pavone. The other dedicated and talented group that Joe has overseen with incredible sensitivity and adaptability during these past few very unusual years is our absolutely remarkable staff. New and old members alike feel a special kinship to the folks who work at the Ocean Club. They are such an integral part of the enjoyment that we experience anytime we're here at the club. In fact, I would ask that we all offer a hearty round of applause for our dedicated staff who have adjusted, weathered, and navigated these past few years with smiles on their faces and can-do attitudes that seem to be embedded in their personalities. Zev, Anthony, Stephen, Tony, Octavius, thank you so much. Thank you. You guys do mean the world to us, and you make such a difference. But let me get back to Joe, because I wasn't done with him, and he hates it when I talk about him, so that's life, Joe. Joe Pavone was and still is on top of every detail associated with the major project and the various others that coincided. The guy has a work ethic that is second to none. There isn't an hour, day or night that he isn't responding to or initiating emails about the club. He spends countless hours at this club at all kinds of odd hours. I see his car here at 5 in the morning, on Sunday nights late. He's here at all kinds of hours, usually outside the view of membership. We members do happen to see Joe most evenings at the front door as he welcomes us to dinner, and he might stay there till 7 or 7:30, sometimes 8. And I think many of us assume that he then quietly slips away and goes home. But more often than not, what Joe does, he quietly slips into the kitchen. We have to acknowledge that our kitchens are, and Anthony would be the first to acknowledge this, are woefully under capacity versus the amount of food we now serve inside and out. So one way to help overcome this undercapacity is have lots of senior oversight down there working with the crew. So Joe is often down there, rolling up his sleeves, helping oversee the meals, working side by side with Anthony. In addition to his work ethic, we are fortunate to have Joe leading the club because of his constant ingenuity. We now take for granted the added amenities and service on the beach and elsewhere, the expanded hours and days of operation, none of which existed prior to Joe's arrival. He led the club, he led the staff, he led the complicated delivery of budgets during the unpredictable and constantly changing landscape of COVID. The relationship he developed with White Cliff Country Club up in Lake Worth to assure that our most valued employees can be fully engaged during their summer months is the kind of out-of-the-box thinking that few clubs are able to benefit from. Before COVID, during Joe's very first year at the club, he inherited more operational nightmares than any of us would have anticipated. Our basic reporting systems were woeful, sadly, in many cases, inaccurate. We were inconsistent in our efforts to train and develop our valued staff members. Last summer, he worked closely with our search committee comprised of members to find a top-quality chef who could elevate our food offering, and in Anthony, they found a very unique talent. Now, Anthony is the first to admit that he has learned a lot about the nature of our club's food preferences, and I think we would all agree they're quite diverse, right, Anthony? He did that during his first, partial lap around the calendar. He's still got a couple months to go before he completes that lap. And he looks forward to delighting the membership in whole new ways with the critical learning that he now has under his belt. He is a very, very special talent. We're lucky to have him, and he also happens to be a heck of a nice guy. We're thrilled to have him here, and that is another tribute to Joe. So before turning the microphone over to Joe for a few of his updates, I'd ask that we all show our appreciation to Joe Pavone for his fortitude and adaptability in leading the club as our general manager.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out under such conditions. I have to say, I look out and I look at the pool and I look at the new surroundings, and I'm just glad that the staff and I and everybody that's been involved, the board members, could deliver this for our membership. I'm truly pleased that where we came from 3 years ago to where we are now, and hopefully come back in October and November, we get back to that sense of normalcy, get back into your routines that you've enjoyed before COVID, before all of these things, inflation and everything else has hit us. We're excited about the future. I don't look at the past very often. It was what it was. It was a very interesting year, very challenging year. I want to thank Mr. Mitch Engel and also Ms. Chris Engel for the time and the dedication that they put in answering my emails and my phone calls and working through issues and working through what we were trying to deliver here that you can now see. And we've got a lot of work yet to do. There is plenty of work yet before we get to November. And quite frankly, I don't think a summer membership would have enjoyed what's going to happen out there with construction around the bar and all of the punch list items. It would just be very, very inconvenient for everyone involved. So I think the right decision concerning the summer membership was the right decision for us. I'd like to acknowledge, we've got one service award that we'd like to give out to an employee who's been here for 10 years, and he's been promoted to Senior Executive Sous Chef, and that is Mr. Ray Chang. Mr. Ray?
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
It's truly a pleasure to work with Ray in the kitchen and go back there, and he's always has such a great attitude, and he's always willing to do whatever it is that we need done. And without him, we would not be able to serve the dinners that we serve every evening, day in and day out, with the quality and the presentation. So once again, Ray, thank you very much for your dedication. I believe, I want to thank, before I lose sight of this, I want to thank both Stephen and Melissa, who through the years have been at my side, whether it's 5 in the morning or whether it's 10 o'clock at night. They're answering texts, they're answering phone calls. We keep each other abreast of everything that's going on, and quite frankly, the success that we're enjoying, I couldn't enjoy it without Stephen and Melissa. It's been a great 3 years so far, so thank you. And also, I believe tonight at about 8 o'clock is our electronic briefs will be sent out, and my article will draw attention to the fact that we will be having, I think, for the first time in a long time, a survey of our membership, which I think is extremely important for our membership to guide us strategically for long-term planning, and also operationally for day-to-day operations. And Club Benchmarking, we will be working with them in conjunction. They've done our capital reserve study, and they're world-renowned, really. They have over 2,500 clubs in their database that they would be pulling information from and comparing our survey to all these other clubs, which will give us really, really good data to work off of. But I'd just like to draw your attention to the fact that nationally, when a survey goes out from a club, we usually get about 50 to 52% response. And, you know, I like statistics, and I just don't think that that's a really strong number for a club. It's half the membership, basically. And I'm hoping that when we do our survey, which will be probably late August, beginning of September, that I'm hoping that the Ocean Club can break the 75 percentile in responses. So it's very important that everyone takes the time, if they can, to fill out the surveys, to give us the data and the responses, that we can get that data and use it constructively to move the club forward in a fashion in which most, if not all, of our membership wants. So we will be sending out reminders throughout the summer that it's coming, probably more than once, and then when you get it, you'll be finally good. He's going to leave us alone now. But please take the time to fill it out. Everyone's voice, it matters, and it definitely helps us, give us that compass of where we need to go in the future. So with that, I don't think I have anything else. It's good to see everybody this evening, and we look forward to have a healthy, safe summer, and when you come back, if you do leave town, we'll be looking for you, and we're excited about bringing forth some new amenities and also upgraded services. So thank you, and good evening.
Thank you, Joe, and great job. And again, thank you for making the difference that you do here day in, day out. I know we're all probably getting a little eager for that second drink, or in some cases that first drink, and dinner to follow. So I'm going to ask for a motion to close the formal proceedings of this meeting, after which we'll open the floor for questions. So do we have a motion to close?
I'll move it.
Thank you, Sandy. A second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. The meeting is thereby closed. Thank you. So now we will entertain questions. If you have a question and want to raise your hand in the group, we'll do that. But I also want to offer up, if anybody is more comfortable asking their questions one-on-one, I'll be sticking around. Joe, Larry, governors will stick around as long as necessary to take your questions one-on-one. But with that, questions from the floor. Judy.
I'm just curious if people have asked if this survey will be confidential.
Yeah, the respondents' answers will be confidential. Correct. Good question, Judy. Jimmy.
Mitch, I don't know if it's the appropriate time, but I was just wondering if you might touch on what you're thinking about in terms, when the board is thinking about future projects.
Yeah, well, we're hoping actually that the survey will help inform us on that. We have had some talk about the upstairs in the clubhouse. We know our kitchens, both downstairs and upstairs, are inadequate, both in terms of size and design, but also equipment. And so and the long-range planning committee has been talking about this, so that, I'm sure, will be part of the questionnaire, getting feedback on, gee, what would we like to see in terms of the upstairs at the clubhouse? A bigger lounge, different kinds of dining rooms, the strange space in the middle of the clubhouse, what could that be? So I would say there'll be some attention spent on redesigning or looking at possible redesigns for the clubhouse. But that will be a multi-year effort, allowing this time, the time that we didn't have with the outside project, we will have time to do member input, to have some groups show some designs, and also gives us a chance to collect some additional capital funds, which we need to do. So that's pretty high on the list. But we're hoping the roof work that's being done to disguise those ugly air conditioners and duct work, we're hopeful that the work that's being done is going to accomplish that, but if it doesn't, we might take another look at that. So those two come to mind. Mhm. Yeah.
Perhaps I misunderstood. We're not having summer members this year, and you said it was because it's going to be under construction, they wouldn't care for it. Does that mean we're finished with summer members forever, or is this just temporary?
At this point, the decision of the board has been to do away with the summer membership program. Does that mean that it will never be revisited? I mean, clubs have a long history, but I would say for the foreseeable future, we should anticipate there won't be a summer membership program. That's the strong sentiment of the board and many people that have inputted into the board. Thank you. Other questions? Please, Jenny.
Can we still use the pool this summer?
Oh, yeah, the club will be open to regular members and tennis members. You may recall that tennis members gain full club rights from May 1st through October 30th, I think? 31st, whatever that. So the club will be open all summer, we just won't have summer members, okay? Thanks, Jenny, for clarification.
And Mitch, are you thinking you might close at some point?
Yeah, at some point, good point, Mary Ann, because of the amount of punch list work that needs to be done, some of it rather significant. The work on the bar will be pretty significant. The new flooring in the breezeway will literally close the breezeway for 2 to 3 weeks to get the new mosaic tile down. So there's a good chance that Joe has the authority to do this, Joe will probably choose to shut down the club for maybe 3 weeks in August so that it just doesn't inconvenience everybody. Jan?
Going forward after this summer, will we get back on having a reciprocal with, say, Gulfstream DMT?
That's a good question. We will look at that year to year, Jan. At this point, we made the decision to try a year without it and see how it goes. Our analysis candidly has shown that reciprocal arrangements have been sort of a one-way street for us. Here we go, we got sirens. We have a lot of members that come and use our pool and our beach and don't eat a lot of meals, and our members go to their clubs and eat a lot of meals, which is fine, that's a benefit to our members, so we don't ignore that. So we will study it again after this year. That is one of those decisions I think each year we'll look at and determine what's best. Others? Okay. Well, thank you for your attention. You've been very polite, and we appreciate it, and it's glad to be doing this again. So thank you.